Power has always been a strange thing. People fight for it, kill for it, die with it. But what if someone had the most sacred power on earth and simply gave it away? Not out of humility, not because he was forced, but because he saw a better offer. What if the most powerful religious man in the world sold his job? This isn't fiction, it's not satire. It's the true story of a pope who wore the crown 3 different times, ruled like a Roman emperor, was accused of crimes unspeakable, and then did something no one in history has dared to repeat. He sold the papacy for gold. This is the story of Pope Benedict IX, the youngest pope, the most controversial pope, and perhaps the Church's most buried embarrassment. The year was 1032. Rome, the eternal city, was anything but eternal back then. It was lawless, violent, and divided. And the Catholic Church? It wasn't the global structured power we know today. Back then it was more like a family-run empire. And one family, the Counts of Tusculum, had the winning hand. They were the unofficial rulers of Rome, and they weren't content with land, titles, and soldiers. They wanted to control the soul of Europe. And so, like kings arranging a wedding, they placed their children on the throne of St. Peter. When their young son Theophylactus came of age, maybe 11, maybe 20, historians still argue, they placed him on that throne too. He took the name Benedict IX. No cardinal vote, no divine sign, just raw aristocratic power. And with that, the holiest office in Christendom was handed to a child who had no calling, no training, and no business leading anything, let alone the Church. From the very beginning, Benedict ruled much like a bored nobleman with too much wine in his cup and not nearly enough enemies to keep him occupied or challenged. He threw extravagant banquets, flaunted his immense wealth, and blatantly ignored his spiritual duties. And, according to multiple chroniclers, he transformed the papal palace into a playhouse of unchecked corruption and excess. Others went further, accusing him of accepting bribes and even being involved in murder and violent intrigue. One source described his reign as so vile and shameful, it was a complete disgrace to the sacred chair of St. Peter. Others whispered even darker things, black magic, sorcery, and the kind of wild accusations that only surface when someone behaves so outrageously that only the devil himself seems to explain it. And remember, these weren't just the opinions of political enemies. These were respected church historians recording the shocking truth for posterity. Eventually, even the jaded people of Rome had had enough. Uprisings broke out, factions formed, the streets boiled with anger, and in the chaos, Benedict was forced to flee. Another man, Sylvester III, was quickly elected in his place, and for a moment, a very brief moment, Rome had a new pope. But Benedict wasn't done, not even close. He returned, expelled Sylvester, took back the throne. This would become a pattern. He'd leave, return, leave again, come back. No pope in history did this, not before, not after. But the more times Benedict returned, the fewer people wanted him. Morally, he was a scandal. Politically, he was a burden. Spiritually, he was a disaster. And then, something changed. A subtle shift, almost imperceptible at first, but it would alter the course of history. He started to grow tired. Maybe it was the pressure, the endless expectations weighing on his shoulders day after day. Maybe he really did fall in love. Some sources say he wanted to marry, to escape the suffocating confines of his holy office for a chance at a different life. Or maybe he simply saw a financial opportunity, a way to turn his position into personal gain. Because what he did next has never happened again in the 1,000-year history of the Catholic Church. It was unprecedented, shocking even to his contemporaries. He sold the papacy, yes, literally, the highest spiritual office in Christendom, traded for gold. He went to Gregory VI, a respected priest and his own godfather, and made him an offer that would change both their lives. He'd resign, leave it all behind, for a price. And Gregory said yes, accepting the deal without hesitation. He gave Benedict a chest of gold in exchange for the throne of St. Peter. the very seat of spiritual authority. Just like that, the papacy was sold, like land or a painting or a prized war horse. It was a transaction almost beyond belief. Not out of fear, not under threat, just a simple transaction, cold and calculated. Benedict walked away, richer, unpunished, untouched. He simply vanished from the stage, his pockets full. This act, simony, the buying and selling of church offices, was technically illegal even then, forbidden by canon law. But no one stopped it. Not the cardinals, not the church elders, not even the emperor, who turned a blind eye. The corruption was so deep no one even blinked. The silence was as telling as the crime itself. It wasn't until the scandal reached its boiling point that the Holy Roman Emperor, Henry III, intervened. In 1046 he marched into Italy and called the Council of Sutri. He had one mission: clean house, and clean it he did. All three popes, Gregory VI, Sylvester III and Benedict IX, were deposed. A new pope, Clement II, was installed. The church took a breath. The crisis was over, or so they thought. Clement II died just months after taking the throne. And like a ghost refusing to rest, Benedict returned. Again, yes, again, for a third time he claimed the papacy. But this time the world had changed. His supporters were gone. His family's grip had loosened. His reputation was beyond recovery. He ruled only briefly, maybe a few weeks. No one rallied for him, no one defended him, and quietly he was pushed out. And this time, he stayed gone. So, what became of him? The records fade into silence, and the rumors only multiply with each passing generation. Some say he died in disgrace, cast out and alone, spending his final days in exile far from the world he once ruled. Others believe he repented, seeking forgiveness, and retreated to a remote monastery, dedicating his remaining years to prayer and trying to save his soul. A few claim he made one last desperate bid for power, and failed, his ambitions finally crushed by those he once called allies. But the truth? No one knows for certain. His fate is lost to history. What we do know is what he left behind. A church in crisis, shaken to its very core. A scandal so severe it forced reforms, echoing through the halls of power for years to come. Because of Benedict IX, simony became a rallying cry for church reformers, a symbol of everything that needed to change. Because of him, popes would eventually be elected by cardinal conclave, not by family dynasties or political intrigue. He didn't just stain the church. In a strange way, he helped change it forever. And yet, his name is rarely mentioned, almost as if history itself wishes to forget. You won't hear about him in sermons or see his stories celebrated. You won't see him in textbooks or find his legacy taught in schools, because some legends aren't simply forgotten. They're buried, hidden away beneath layers of shame and secrecy. Not by time, but by embarrassment, and by the desire to move on from a painful past. Benedict IX wasn't just a bad pope, he was the worst. A cautionary tale of what happens when divine power is treated like property, when spiritual leadership becomes a personal toy, when the church forgets its own soul. He was the youngest pope, the most scandalous, the only man to wear the crown 3 times and sell it like livestock. He was the pope who quit, then sold his job and came back twice. History tried to forget him. But now you know the truth. Subscribe for more stories like this. Strange, true, and buried in the dust of time, there's more to uncover.